Daniel 1 through 3. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And Adonai delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, and he carried them into the land of Shinar to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. Then the king spoke to Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs. Then he should bring in some of his sons of Israel, even of the royal offspring and of the nobles, youths in whom was no blemish, but well favored, skillful in all wisdom, and endowed with knowledge, and understanding science, and who had the ability to stand in the king's palace, and that he should teach them the learning and the language of the Kasdim. And the king appointed for them a daily portion of the king's food, and of the wine which he drank, and that they should be trained 3 years, and at its end they should stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And the prince of the eunuchs given names to them, to Daniel, he gave the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah, Shadrach, to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the king's food, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God made Daniel find kindness and compassion in the sight of the prince of the eunuchs. The prince of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who has appointed your food and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse than looking youths who are your own age? Then you who are endangered my head with the king. Then Daniel said to the steward whom the prince of the eunuchs had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, test your servants, I beg you, 10 days, and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our faces be examined before you, and the face of the youths who eat of the king's food. And as you see, deal with your servants. So he listened to them in this manner, and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, their faces appeared fairer, and they were fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate of the king's food. So the steward took away their food and the wine that they would drink, and gave them vegetables. As for the 4 youths, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. At the end of the days which the king had appointed for bringing them in, the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king talked with them, and among them all was found no one like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they stood before the king, and in every matter of wisdom and understanding concerning which the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians, enchanters, who were all in his realm. And Daniel continued even to the 1st year of King Cyrus. Now the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was troubled, and his sleep went from him. Then the king commanded that the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the Kasdim be called to tell the king his dreams. So they came in and stood before the king. The king said to them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. Then the Kasdim spoke to the king of Assyria in language, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Kasdim, The thing has gone from me. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you will be cut in pieces, and your houses will be made a dunghill. But if you show the dream and its interpretation, you will receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and its interpretation. They answered the 2nd time and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show you the interpretation. The king answered and said, I know of a certainty that you are trying to gain time, because you see the thing has gone from me. But if you But if you do not make known to me the dream, there is but one law for you. For you have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me until the situation changes. So tell me the dream, and I will know that you can show me its interpretation." The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, "There is not a man on earth who can show you the king's matter, because no king, lord, or ruler has asked such a thing of any magician, enchanter, or Chaldean. It is a rare thing that the king requires, and there is no other who can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh." For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went out, and the wise men were to be slain, and they sought Daniel and his companions to be slain. Then Daniel returned and answered with counsel and discretion to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, "Why is this decree so urgent from the king?" Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Daniel went in, desired the king that he would appoint him a time, and he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions. Then they would desire mercies of the God of heaven concerning this secret. Then Daniel and his companions would not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. He changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals the deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. I thank you and praise you, O God of my fathers, for you have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we desired of you, for you have made known to us the king's matter." Therefore Daniel went in to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said this to him, "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show the king the interpretation." Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said this to him, "I have found a man of the children of captivity of Judah, who will make known to the king the interpretation." The king answered and said to Daniel, "Whose name was Belteshazzar? Are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation?" Daniel answered before the king and said, "The secret which the king has demanded cannot be shown to the king by wise men, enchanters, magicians, or soothsayers. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be at the end of days. Your dream and the visions of your head on your bed are these. As for you, O king, your thoughts came on your bed. What should happen hereafter, and he who reveals secrets has made known to you what will happen. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but that the interpretation may be known to the king, and that you may know the thoughts of your heart. You, O king, saw, and behold, a great image. This image was mighty, and whose brightness was excellent, stood before you, and its appearance was terrifying. As for this image, its head was of fine gold, its breasts and its arms of silver, its belly and its thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet part of iron and a part of clay. You saw until a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image of its feet that were on the iron, clay, and broke them into pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, and the silver, and the gold were broken in pieces together. It became like chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, so that no place was found for them. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell its interpretation before the king. You, O king, are King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, and the power, and the strength, and the glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, he has given the animals of the field and the birds of the sky into your hand, and has made you rule over them all. You are the head of gold. And after you, another kingdom will arise, that is inferior to you, and another third kingdom of bronze, which will rule over the earth. And the fourth kingdom will be strong as iron, because iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things, and as iron that crushes all things, it will break in pieces and crush. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, it will be divided kingdom, but there will be in it of strength of iron, because you saw the iron mixed with the miry clay. As the toes of the feet were part of the iron and the part of clay, so the kingdom will be partly strong and partly broken. Whereas you saw the iron mixed with miry clay, they will mangle themselves with the seed of men, but they will not cling to one another, even as iron does not mix with clay. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed, nor will its sovereignty be left to another people, but it will break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it will stand forever, because you saw that a stone was cut off from the mountains without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great God who has made known the king what will happen hereafter. The dream is certain, and its interpretation sure. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an offering of sweet odors to him. The king answered to Daniel and said, Of a truth your God is the God of gods, and the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since he has been able to reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel great, and gave him many great gifts, and made him rule over the whole province of Babylon, and to be chief governor over all the wise men of Babylon. And Daniel requested of the king, and he appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel was in the king's gate. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits, and width 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent together the local governors, the deputies, and the governors, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image of King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then the local governors, the deputies, and the governors, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together to the dedication of the image of King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image of Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then the herald cried aloud, To you it is commanded, peoples, nations, languages, that whenever you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you shall fall down and worship the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the middle of the burning fiery furnace the same hour. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, the flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all the kinds of music, all the peoples, nations, tongues fell down and worshipped the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Therefore, at that time, certain Casdim came near and accused the Jews. They answered and said to Nebuchadnezzar the king, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that every man that hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image, and whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the middle of the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not respected you. They do not serve your gods, do not worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. Then these men were brought before the king. Nebuchadnezzar answered them, It is on purpose, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you shall not serve my God, nor worship the golden image which I have set up. Now, if you are ready, whenever you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all the kinds of music, to fall down and worship the image which I have made, good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast the same hour in the middle of the burning fiery furnace. And who is the God that will deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If it happens, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, or worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the form of his appearance was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spoke and commanded that they should heat the fiery furnace 7 times more than it usually heated. And he commanded certain mighty men who were in the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their pants, their tunics, and their mantles, and their other clothes, and were cast into the middle of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because of the king's commandment was urgent, and furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who stood up, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the middle of the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and rose up in haste. He spoke and said to his counselors, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Look, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are unharmed. The appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods. Then Nebuchadnezzar came to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace. He spoke and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High God, come out and come here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out in the midst of the fire. The local governors, the deputies, the governors, the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men that the fire had no power on their bodies. The hair of their head was not singed. Their pants were not changed, and the smell of fire was not on them. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him and have changed the king's word and have yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, tongue which speak anything evil against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God who is able to deliver like this. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar, to all the peoples, nations, tongues that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. It has seemed good to me to show the signs and wonders that the Most High God has worked toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation.